With just 10 days left until a default that could rock the American economy and beyond, there is still no deal between debt limit negotiators, headed by top congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy and President Joe Biden. Speaking to reporters on Monday, McCarthy said he would meet with the Democratic president every day until they can find a way forward on the federal government's $31.4 trillion debt ceiling, and called the day's talks the best they've had.
We're going to let the teams work tonight, see if we could get progress, but we didn't. Productive but not progress. Well, I would assume I'd meet with President Biden every day till we get this done. This is too important.
Do you expect to meet with him tomorrow?
Look, if we don't meet, I'm sure we're going to talk on the phone, but we're going to have the staff get together and then we're going to get back. It was not set that we had to see one another, or at least we're going to talk, but nothing's set.
Any agreement to raise the limit must pass both chambers of Congress before Biden can sign it into law, which would take several days. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Monday offered a sobering reminder of how little time is left, saying the earliest estimated default date remains June 1st, and that it is highly likely that Treasury will no longer be able to pay all government obligations by early June if the debt ceiling is not raised. Failure to lift the debt ceiling would trigger a default that would shake financial markets and drive interest rates higher on everything from car payments to credit cards. Ongoing uncertainty is already weighing on investors and stocks. Jeff Tomasulo is CEO of Vespula Capital Management and Tactical Income. He says it's all grim déjà vu.
Well, to be frank, I think it's quite ridiculous that we're doing this again, right? I feel like it just shows the rest of the world how dysfunctional our government has been over the last 10, 15 years. And, you know, in my eyes, we're playing Russian roulette with the United States credit. And it shouldn't even be an option. And I don't even know why we continue to allow this to happen, where we're, just allowing, these congressmen and senators and these politicians, again, to wreak havoc or to kind of play with the good standing credit of the United States of America.
Biden is racing for a solution after insisting that Republicans should pass a clean, unconditional increase before he would agree to any spending negotiations. Under Trump, Congress raised the debt limit 3 times without a similar demand from Republicans for sharp spending cuts.
As Florida Governor Ron DeSantis prepares to take a widely anticipated leap into the 2024 presidential campaign this week, a former Trump insider with a rap sheet is making noise. His name, Lev Parnas. The Ukrainian-American businessman and his partner, Igor Fruman, were arrested in 2019 and accused of illegally funneling a Russian oligarch's money into American political campaigns. One recipient of Parnas's donations was Ron DeSantis. After Parnas and Fruman were arrested, a spokesperson for DeSantis said, quote, "The governor does not have a relationship with these individuals." A few days later, DeSantis told reporters that Parnas was, quote, "just like any other donor, nothing more than that." But Parnas is painting a picture of a much closer relationship than the Republican governor has disclosed, sharing with Reuters 63 previously unreported text messages sent from DeSantis to Parnas over 6 months as DeSantis campaigned for governor in 2018. A Reuters photographer captured Parnas among supporters at DeSantis' victory party after the 2018 governor's race. In photos of DeSantis at the party, Parnas is right behind him. DeSantis spokesman Dave Abrams did not respond to specific questions about the existence of the texts and Parnas' account of their relationship. He called it, quote, "another recycled narrative that has been proven wrong many times over." Parnas said he and DeSantis began exchanging texts when the gubernatorial candidate was seeking then-President Donald Trump's endorsement in the Republican primary.
Hello, Pensacola.
At the time, Parnas was a well-known figure in Trump's orbit, often seen with Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. In texts, DeSantis asked Parnas for advice on how to handle a potential major donor, saying, quote, "would it be reasonable for me to ask him to donate $50K? Adding, "I think he did 6 figures for Trump." After the election, DeSantis quit responding to Parnas' texts. By then, Parnas and Fruman were facing federal scrutiny over their political donations. After they were indicted, DeSantis returned his $50,000 donation to the U.S. government. Parnas said he subsequently spoke several times with DeSantis by phone, but they never resumed their close relationship. He says he remains angry at DeSantis. Parnas would later play a minor role in Trump's first impeachment trial, when he and Fruman were accused of working with Giuliani, Trump's former personal attorney, who was pressing Ukrainian officials to investigate then former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Trump was ultimately acquitted by the Republican-held Senate. The former president has said he doesn't know Parnas or Fruman.
I don't know those gentlemen. Now, it's possible I have a picture with them because I have a picture with everybody. I have a picture with everybody here.
A federal judge last year sentenced Parnas to 20 months in prison for fraud and making illegal campaign donations. Wearing shorts and an ankle bracelet, he spoke with Reuters for several hours at his home in Boca Raton. Parnas says he now regrets his work with Giuliani and Trump, believing he was used. He shared the texts with Reuters because he feels betrayed by DeSantis, who he says stopped returning texts after winning his governor's race.
Emergency workers fought to revive a young victim airlifted to Guyana's capital, Georgetown, on Monday after a fire tore through a secondary school dormitory overnight, killing at least 19 children and injuring several others. Emergency services said the building in the central city of Mahdia was completely engulfed in flames by the time firefighters arrived. Captain Gerald Gavaya is Guyana's national security advisor.
This is a day that will live in infamy for us because these children did not deserve to die like this. It's a day for mourning for all of us, for this country. Every man, woman, and child, and every parent their heart will go out to the parents of those children. And I know today the president is going to visit those parents, meet with the people, see what is it that we could do, and to understand what really happened here.
Gavaya said lightning, thunder, and heavy rain complicated rescue efforts. But he added the pilots were all very determined to transport the victims quickly. Some 20 students were rescued. An investigation into the cause of the fire is underway.
The graduate student charged with murdering 4 University of Idaho college students appeared in court Monday.
Do you understand the charge in count 1 perfectly? Yes.
A judge entered a plea of not guilty on behalf of 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, who wore an orange jumpsuit and remained mostly silent, opting not to enter a plea during an arraignment hearing in Idaho.
Your Honor, we will be standing silent.
Kohberger is accused of stabbing 3 women and 1 man inside the victim's home early on November 13th of last year, a crime that stunned the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, and drew national attention. 2 other roommates in the house were unharmed. One of the women told investigators that she heard someone crying in one of the victim's bedrooms at 4 a.m. before a masked man, clad in black, walked past her and out of the house, according to a court document. 6 weeks later, Kohberger was arrested in Pennsylvania. The victims, Madison Mogan, Haley Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, all suffered multiple stab wounds. At the time, Kohberger was working on a doctorate degree in criminal justice at Washington State University, about 10 miles from the University of Idaho campus. Authorities have not disclosed a motive, but said they are confident Kohberger was the killer. The judge scheduled the trial to begin on October 2nd. Kohberger could face life in prison or the death penalty if convicted of murder.
Ukrainian forces say that they're continuing to advance on the northern and southern flanks of the city of Bakhmut in an attempt to encircle and trap the Russian troops inside, just days after Moscow claimed to have finally captured it through 8 months of grinding warfare. And the developments are now giving both sides reasons to claim that momentum is in their favor in a landscape Ukraine's President Zelensky has recently compared to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. This was video released by Russia's Wagner mercenary group over the weekend, claiming to show its forces raising their flags in the rubble. Reuters was able to verify the drone views, but not when it was filmed. Ed Arnold is with the Royal United Services Institute think tank in London.
It looks like Bakhmut is still contested, but ultimately speaking, you need to see the battle in a wider picture that the Russians have pushed everything they had at it since August, and they've only just sort of captured the town. But equally, when you look at the imagery, I mean, there's nothing left of the town. It's a very insignificant point on the broader map, and actually what's really been it's all been about is to try and fix each fort so that they can't fight in other places within Ukraine. And the issue now is that the Russians will just find themselves in an area that they might not even be able to stay in long term because the infrastructure does not exist. So then the ability to then keep the the city in their hands and then continue further west, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Meanwhile, in another mocking public statement against Russia's regular military establishment, the Wagner Group's head, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has repeated his vow to pull his mercenaries out of the city starting on May 25th, handing over control to government forces. He's accusing the military of abandoning the flanks even as his mercenaries advanced, which the defense ministry denies. The coming weeks will show just how much the massive losses of life in Bakhmut have impacted the wider war.